Greetings, everybody. How's everybody doing so far? Food good? Yeah, okay. Well, everybody's been waiting for the tribal leader panel. You know, what's happening, what's going on? And so thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. I'd like to introduce Chairman Mark Fox with MHA Nation, Chairman Jared Michael Erickson, Colville Business Council, John Merceau, Tribal Councilman of the Waukegan Indian Community, Governor Stephen Lewis, the Gila River Indian Community, and Dr. Boo Nygren, President of the Navajo Nation. You know, when we put this panel together, the staff gave me a list of 20 questions, and so I said, oh my gosh, how do we get through this? You know, knowing that I got some esteemed tribal leaders here today. And so what I thought we'd do is I'm just gonna go down the line here. And so the big issues I know that we're dealing with, that we're talking about, is how do we get business development going? How do we get economic development going? You know, how do we work with outside businesses? But I think more importantly, you know, given the tone and what's going on in Washington, D.C., and a lot of our businesses and our contractors are dependent on the federal government, you know, what are the challenges at the federal level that's going to impact your economic development and your business development? So I'm just going to go down the line here, and I'll start with Chairman Fox. 5 minutes, gentlemen, okay, each. So let's go that route, because I know it's very, very important to interface the tribe, your businesses, your enterprises, and a lot of us, you know, are dependent on federal grants and contracts. I was telling you earlier that I do have a contract as my business with the Department of Energy. Right now, it's on pause. So I'm still working, but I'm not getting paid. So, you know, but that's important to me. So Chairman Fox, I'll start with you, and we'll just go down the line here. You know, tell us a little about your thoughts as what's happening, because I know everybody's interested in that. So, sir.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Shout out there to my MHA people that are here as well. Raise your hand.
They're over here. Yeah.
Awesome. At least the ones that showed up are here. They're here. And so it's great to see you. And I do want to make a quick comment in regards to NCAIED. This is the most outstanding, the #1 conference in the nation for Indian country.
Thank you.
Do an awesome job. Let's give them a round of applause for everything they do. You know, our tribe, in summary, you know, we've really moved along greatly in economic development, primarily because of our energy development, oil and gas. At MHA, Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, we produce nearly 3% of all the crude for the United States of America. And that's pretty darn close to 300,000 barrels per day. So it's very substantial, and we've worked very hard to get us to that point. We've got a lot of other projects that we need to do as well, too. And some of those projects, for example, we have in energy, we've got 3 projects that are multi-billion. We want to become part of the crude storage program, SPR, for the United States, and do things along that line. We want to create a pipeline of LNGs to foreign market trade, and we've worked hard towards that effect. And then, of course, we're going to do things like power generation and hydrogen development as well, using our gas for those things. Now we've got those 3 projects. We've got other multi-billion-dollar impact projects as well. Some of you are aware, there's an insert inside the booklet showing some of the things that we're doing back at home, but we also heavily invest in real estate. Here in Las Vegas, we own prime pieces of land that we plan to develop. Hopefully in coordination with some tribal equity partners, we're going to build what's going to become the greatest and the biggest resort and development casino project in Vegas and the world, as far as we're concerned. So we've got that. We've got water. Water is very critical to any economic development you got, and we sit on a 23 million acre-feet lake, and we know that the water to the west is really in high demand. So we're going to do everything we can to put ourselves in a position to be able to share usage of that potentially for economic development from our home in North Dakota all the way down to here, maybe to as far as Arizona and things of that nature. So that being said, not to take up too much time, because my staff fully expects me to talk for half an hour. I only got a couple of minutes. The point I'm going to raise here real quick is that I will say this. For our tribal nation as we stand today, And regardless of what your feelings may be on the outcome of the election, I have never seen a more promising day for energy development amongst our tribal nations. And we had a meeting last night with a number of tribes. There's about 10 tribes that are heavily invested in energy development. But this is the day. This is the time that we're going to be able to move forward and quadruple what we do in energy in a very short amount of time. That means benefits back to our people, the things that we do, the infrastructure we build, the programs that we have, that we provide, all these things, other economic development are all going to be there. Now, we will have our battles. We had them when this administration was in place 5 years ago. We had our battles. We had our disputes. We had things that we had to fight over, literally. But on the other hand, we have an administration that speaks highly towards, wants energy dominance, for example. Energy dominance and things of that nature. And so that combined with, I feel that we have one of the strongest and most powerful allies now up there in that cabinet, because we worked with this gentleman for 8 years. For 8 years as governor of the state of North Dakota, he worked hand in hand, spent hours and hours of figuring out how to maximize economic development amongst the 5 tribes in North Dakota. And that's Mr. Secretary Doug Burgum. He's also going to head up the National Energy Policy and Commission, Council, excuse me. But with him in place, he fully understands what sovereignty is. He fully understands the need for economic development in Indian country. He knows that without economic development, you will get no changes out there in Indian country. And that's really critical. He's an ally for us. Again, I'm going to have to couch the things that I'm saying by this. We will have disputes. We won't agree on everything. And I'm offering this up as hope to everybody. We've got to be up here tying our economic development in Indian country to the revenues that they provide. We got to connect that. We got to show that if you keep assisting Indian country, we will find a day, one day, where we will not depend on the federal government anymore, because that's always been our long-term goal, is reducing federal dependency. And then it becomes a non-question, a non-issue, because we're now exporting what we have to offer to the United States, and they're now dependent on us and what we do economically. That's the days that we have ahead of us, very promising. So we've got great optimism, but again, last thing I'm going to say, and my friend's saying, hey, get going. Last thing I'm going to say here is, everybody that's out here, you're very smart people. You're here, you understand things, you're capable of getting things done, but sometimes you just have to think out of the box. If you keep doing the same thing you've always done, you'll always be where you've always been. Einstein, the famous scientist, said that the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and then expecting a different result. That's the definition of insanity. I throw that out there because sometimes you just got to go out of the box and say, you know what, we could do this. And when people say you can't do that, just step forward and get it done. Do the things necessary. Be persistent. Don't give up. There are paths to stronger economic development out there, and if you think in those terms, we'll get there. And it's a great honor to be able to sit with you today and share a few words.
Thank you, Chairman Fox.
Thank
Appreciate it. Chairman Erickson, let's hear from you. What do you think?
All right. Well, thank you all for allowing me to be here today. Thank you for the words from my counterpart here. He covered a lot of what I was going to cover. No, but I think what he's getting at and what we all need to look at is, how do we get towards financial sovereignty? Everyone talks about sovereignty and what that is and what it isn't. And really, if you're not financially sovereign, you'll never be sovereign, truly, because you're going to be relying on the federal government. I think right now has been a time where we've seen that's a huge issue, right, with all the freezes, cuts that are being made. It's not to say that there's an opportunity in energy and other places, but and then really looking at diversifying what you do. Long time we've all been relying on gaming. For us, we're a 1.4 million acre reservation. We rely heavily on timber. We cut about 77 million board feet a year. We have the biggest carbon project in the state as well, which actually helped jumpstart some of our things that we do economically. Obviously, we moved to gas stations or C-stores that we call them. With that, the energy, we've had, unfortunately, some energy money froze right now for expansions of our EV charging stations, but we're still moving forward with other ones of money we got through the state. Real estate's another one we've been diversifying in as well. I know we've more recently met with the Southern Ute. Our council did. I wasn't able to attend, but our council went, and we've been trying to see where we could diversify. And it doesn't matter where you're buying land. What's the economic reason for that? If it's in Las Vegas for another casino resort, if it's farmland in our case. We have about 39 million acres of our traditional territory that we can still acquire land and get in the trust. So we're looking at, similar to what Bill Gates is doing and buying up farmland. How do we do that? And then have that land continue to pay for more land. And then what do you do with those? You just lease it back to the farmers, or you can convert it back to whatever you want for native habitat. I'm a biologist, so I look at things in an environmental way a lot. Casinos, we've been trying to do an off-reservation casino. Right now we have 3, 2 on reservation, another 1 off reservation. We're allowed 6 through our compact because we're 12 tribes, we're a confederacy in Washington State. That's been a big thing going back and forth to DC. If anyone's done feed of trust and 2-part determinations for gaming, it's a long process. I guess hindsight is there was more gaming applications that got through under the former Trump administration than have the Biden administration, unfortunately. And so we're moving forward on that. But as we diversify with that, we're also are close to opening up, well, not opening up, but we're trying to get investors for an ammunitions factory. So we've done a lot of the study on that. Under any presidency, no matter who it is, defense spending's never gone down, right? And so
that's right.
As you look at that, everyone should be looking at diversifying how you can do that, whether it's a factory to build part of a missile, whether it's ammunition in our case, and then we'll look at selling to other tribes, other law enforcement agencies. And then obviously contracts with the federal government. So we have our, water's a big thing that was talked about. We have one of the bigger water adjudications we're working on now in our state, probably one of the biggest in the nation. We have the Grand Coulee Dam, if anyone knows where that is in Washington State, on our reservation, the biggest dam in the country. There's a lot of water associated with that feeds the Columbia Basin. What else are we doing? A lot of stuff, but I think he covered a lot of it. I'm trying to keep on time too as well, but make sure you're diversifying your portfolio and what you do. You can never do enough different things. I know when you look at businesses, don't just do all your own startup businesses. Buy businesses that are doing well, and then you'll continue to do well. So that's one thing I want to leave people with, because I think if you try to every time start a new business from scratch, it doesn't always work, and then it takes a long time to get up to maturity. So I think looking at that and diversifying your portfolio is huge. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Chairman Erickson. Wise words. Councilman Morceau, your thoughts.
Chimigwech for the opportunity to speak and learn from everybody here that's the years of experience beyond that I have. So if you're not familiar with the Pokagon Band, I just give you some stats. We're not a big tribe. We're about 6,300 tribal citizens. We're located in southwest Michigan, northern Indiana, and economic development is very, at least from in Indian country, it is very geographically based a lot of times. So I think it's good to understand why tribes have grown in the way that they have, and it's based a lot of times on geography. So if you're all Michiganders use the map, and so we're here. Shout out to my Michigan peeps. So we have a pretty large gaming enterprise in southwest Michigan, northern Indiana, and outside of the Chicago market, and the South Bend, Fort Wayne area is our primary gaming markets. And we've been trying to, like other tribes, diversify away from gaming because we saw that during the pandemic, it can be shut down in an instant. And we saw that we're overly reliant on gaming still, even though we started our economic development holding company, Manoba Madzin. If you know Julio Martinez, he's around. He runs that. And that started in 2012, and we've been investing and trying to diversify away from gaming. And we found out quickly, at least our citizens did, that the returns on non-gaming businesses are not the same as gaming businesses. And so that building that understanding with your citizens and with tribal leaders that returns in other types of industries may take longer to build, and it's a process. And we've been expanding into recently real estate, And federal contracting recently, we finally had some of our professional services through like an architecture firm, engineering, finally get some federal contracts. And we know that there's potentially some uncertainty in that space, as you mentioned. So we'll have to keep a lookout to see how that develops and how those contracts are available for tribes as we move forward. But we've been trying to get in that space for a while because everybody was doing it. We kept hearing a lot of these great things, and now we finally get into it, and we're like, oh, it might be going away. But just keep trying to advocate for those contracts. And we've also expanded our clinical services to try to take advantage of the Medicaid billing, and we did that in the local community to expand some healthcare services, and now that like Medicaid's on the chopping block, so we have to just be ready for these changes that we don't know how they're going to play out in Washington. Like just be ready. So right now because of that, we're imposing some austerity measures on our end. On the government side to ensure that we can weather like any funding shortcuts or shortfalls, and we're trying not to be reliant on the federal government, like you all mentioned. Try to not do that, but take advantage of what is available for tribes, and also remember that the funding that the federal government is providing for tribes is based in trust and treaty responsibilities. That I don't want to relieve them of their duties by saying that we don't need you anymore. We don't need you, but you still, like, there's this agreement that, like, you still have a duty to work with us. And although there's a lot of uncertainty in the new administration, I do think that, and I would have preferred this to have gone about a little bit differently, but it seems like there's a motivation on the administration's end to reduce personnel costs at the federal level and to reduce federal involvement. And my instant reaction is we can take over those services. Like we are in a better position for that. Like work with us to transfer those to us, and we can take that on, and you can save your personnel costs. We'll take on those services, and also work with them to reduce like the reporting burdens, all these like bureaucracy that's associated with these federal funding. That like if we can reduce that, then we can save on some of these costs. And I'm hoping that that's something that any country can get behind when we advocate. And I think that's hopefully a common goal, because you have to find commonalities. It's going to be the next 4 years, and you have to find a common ground. And I think transitioning some of these programs to tribes for better oversight is something that we might have some progress on. So those are just some thoughts. I look forward to seeing you all at the conference, and I'll be around, so come up and talk, and look forward to the fashion show.
So, well, it sounds like you're saying 638, all federal services, right?
Yeah.
Governor Lewis, thank you.
Yes.
For joining us.
Thank you.
Your thoughts, please.
Thank you. Skug Sialik. It's good morning, everyone. It's really an honor to be here. You know, I have two council members here, Councilman James De La Rosa, who's in charge of our economic development, and Councilwoman Neda Salaya as well, who's part of our leadership. We have our Pima Leasing and Finance and our Lone Butte Industrial Park. We've been longtime supporters of the National Center.
Thank you.
And I think the National Center, I know the National Center, you know, this gathering and all the services, you know, is needed even now in 2025 for Indian country. And, you know, what I've seen a lot. I feel a little older now. I've seen a lot younger participants all this week. And I think that shows that you have the next generation that is stepping up. So kudos to all of you. I think what it was shared to me, the median age, like a few years ago, was 55. Now the median age, in regards to the registrations, is 40. Oh. Isn't that amazing? That shows that we have entrepreneurs and business, you know, visionaries, you know, that are engaged. And for the Gila River Indian community, we want to continue all of the development and the protection of sovereignty. Whether it was the past administration or the current administration. Now is not the time to roll over. Now is the time to hold our ground and to move forward and protecting the trust treaty responsibility. Hold this administration, hold this Congress to that responsibility. It's important. It's a historic time to do this. Indian country, tribal nations, sovereign nations, we are not DEI. And we should not be put in that box. I'm serious about this. We were told to wake up the crowd here, so it sounds like you guys are waking up. But all of the amazing tribal leaders here, we've been pushing that, we've been advocating that at the beginning of January, we made some initial successes. The administration and Congress has pulled back from DEI, right? They understood that as sovereign nations, the resources and that relationship is sacred. And that relationship is embedded in law and in the Constitution. Now we got to build upon this, right? Of course, there's going to be cuts across the board, across those departments, but we got to find those opportunities. As was said, very well articulated. We got to find those opportunities, to take over some of those federal services that'll benefit us. We're already looking at that as well on the Gila River Indian community. We're in the worst drought in over 1,200 years in this region. That's 30 tribal nations and 7 states, including Nevada as well. And I know President Nygren and the Navajo Nation, they're working diligently to push their water settlement. So we're trying to protect our sovereignty and especially our water settlements. We've been doing everything we can, to be stewards. This is part of who we are. This is part of our history and our culture and our traditions. Protect our water, to be water protectors. That's what we're doing now. We're with what Chairman Fox was saying, in regards to how we can look at energy development. We have opportunities there as well. And for the community, we're looking at ways where we're going to continue. We're not going to back off on green technology. We're going to be moving forward. We were the first ones in the Western Hemisphere, the Gila River Indian community, to bring solar and put those over our canals, bringing green energy to Indian country. When we want to be self-sufficient, we got to be innovative. We got to look out of the box, as was said here. But we can't back down. We can't be scared. We got to be bold. We got to think about, and we got to embrace, and we got to respect all those ancestors, right? All of our past leaders that have fought, that have sacrificed for us to be here today.
Yes.
Now, there are a lot of challenges, and I know that we're wrapping up here, but I want to say, in my last few words, I want to say to all of you, and as tribal leaders, I'm going to veer off a little bit. We need, to look at ways to uplift our economies, to uplift and to be sustainable into the future. We've always done that, right? That's how we've survived. We've been innovative. We are the original innovators. And if we need to be disruptors in this new administration, so be it, right? X aside, right? But what I'm seeing is that we need to protect our community members before all of this, right? And that's why I'm saying, say her name, Emily Pike. And we still need to protect, we still have MMIP as an issue. We need justice for Emily Pike. I'm leaving here and I'm flying back to Arizona just right after this panel to support and to provide testimony for the first Amber Alert, MMIP alert statewide in Arizona. We need those across Indian country. So my prayers and my condolences to the family of Emily Pike and all of those family members and our relatives that have lost loved ones. We need to continue to work with this administration to work in protecting so not one more of our relatives is a victim to this kind of violence. Mosapo, thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Lewis. Appreciate it. President Nygren, your thoughts.
Yate tachi ni shlendo not so baschindo todechi ni the chedo not so the shnala hot o the nen shlendo na neshade anigi the nebananta do besinash enige hashlishni lindo shihiyashin do no da tachi ni bachedo but ane da banale e hot o sanado not ani lo e hot o the nebanel neshdo the nebanal kana nahalo a hui champion ye na neshbeket khadita shebe a hehan dini do horoshi belagana bezade do. So again, good morning to each and every one of you. I want to say thank you for being here on this wonderful Wednesday morning, and it's an honor to be on this stage with some amazing tribal leaders as well. And the focus here this week, I love coming to this conference because it's about economic empowerment. When we're economically empowered, we can really strive towards true tribal sovereignty. And that's one of the things I want to continue to say thank you to all of you for being here, because every day you wake up, you're thinking about how can we have more economic impact in Indian country, within our nations, within our tribal communities, because when we dictate how we continue to provide our own jobs, provide our own revenues, provide our own employment, and really develop our nations the way we see it, that's the way we continue to move forward. On behalf of the nation, I know Governor Lewis and Chairman Fox and the leaders that are on here, some of them, they're really making their way in that pathway. But on behalf of the nation, I know it's a very tough task. I know that I've noticed some tribal, Navajo Nation tribal leaders that are here. I see Chairman Nez here as well. I've seen him here earlier. Chairwoman Jesus was here earlier. And I think Speaker So was here as well. And then the other tribal leaders that are here, I want to say thank you on behalf of the nation, and really continuing to try to strive for how do we truly get to tribal sovereignty. One of the things I think about is 50 years from now, what does the Navajo Nation look like in 2075? Is this a place where our Navajo citizens want to be, want to live there, want to continue to have their own businesses, but how do we get there? So one of the things I always think about is the way we get there is to make sure there's economic opportunities. One, I think about tourism. Tourism is such a huge opportunity on the Navajo Nation. Just last year alone, there was $28 billion in economic activity for tourism. We had almost almost 2 million visitors visit the Navajo Nation. So to me, that's an opportunity that we can continue to figure out how do we build more hotels, how do we build more tourism opportunities. And on top of that, just last year alone, the nation collected over $142 million just in tribal taxes alone to really help push our economic development in our nation. So when we invest in tourism, those numbers can continue to climb, because I foresee the nation at 2075, what if the Navajo Nation's got over $1 billion in taxes that they can collect, so we can provide better services. As you mentioned, I want to say condolences to the family. I know Chairman Rambler, that when I heard about that really hit home, and it was very tough to see that happen to an individual that had a future ahead of her that could not be. Again, it's just very heartbreaking. I'm glad you're testifying. I'm glad that we're behind it. I know as we continue to work with Department of Justice, as we continue to work, and one of the things I really want to say is when can we actually have resources that are dedicated to Indian country? Because sometimes we're so mixed up in, hey, we got to work with our Arizona DOJ, or New Mexico DOJ, or Utah DOJ, but to really have dedicated resources to Indian country, and that's what we really need, and I'm glad you're focusing on that. I just want to say thank you on that. But when it comes to the nation, really, I think about tourism, I think about economic development in terms of energy development, as Chairman Fox mentioned, recently meeting with Secretary Bergman, and I was so surprised, I was very impressed with how much he really talked about the North Dakota tribes and how closely he worked with the Indian country. Because one of the things he told me is when he heard about the IHS layoffs, he made a phone call straight to Secretary Kennedy. He said, when I left North Dakota, we just barely hired an IHS doctor, and you better make sure that they don't get laid off. So leadership like that really continues to work with us. And really want to commend the leadership when it comes to the Washington dynamics. Is if we don't say the words and the trust responsibilities of we are not the we have treaties in place, we have different relationships in place with the U.S. government. And I notice a lot of the secretaries, they acknowledge that, and I'm really excited that as tribal leaders we can continue to how do we adapt to those changing dynamics, because when administrations change, principles change, but one of the things that's the foundation of this. The United States of America is not strong unless Indian country is strong, and there's responsibilities that are in place when it comes to how well we work together. So that's been one of the key focuses that I've been doing as president. It's like anything that's issued, whether it's executive orders, whether it's things that are happening, my team, our Washington office team, is really on top of making sure we send out letters that really continue to make sure that, hey, you know what, these executive orders that are coming out, this should have nothing to do with Indian country, because a lot of them are acknowledging it. So there's those situations where the layoffs happen at Haskell, the layoffs happen at SIPI, the layoffs happen like that, and we brought those attention to the forefront. They were, our intention wasn't to lay those individuals off, but thank you for letting us know, and we're going to make sure we continue to work on rehiring individuals. So I encourage all of our tribal leaders that are here today, reach out to them, let them know that you're being affected, and the more we do that, they're going to be more receptive to some of the work that we're doing, because at this point, this is the administration. We as Indian people are very strong, resilient, creative, and adaptive, so we have to adapt to the administration and really focus on their sense of how do we do more economic development, self-resilience, how do we build America. In my opinion, building America it looks way better when you build Indian country and you make it stronger. So that's some of the pitches that I've been having with this administration is like, you know what, we're all about empowerment. We're all about cutting the red tape. We've been preaching that as Indian country leaders for decades. I'm glad we're on the same page. So how do you truly empower us as tribal nations? So again, the way you lobby, the way you work with congressional delegations, I encourage each and every one of you to kind of have that positive attitude, like, hey, let's take advantage of them really saying self-empowerment, economic development, doing for yourselves, because as Indian people, we were the original traders, we were the original entrepreneurs, we were the ones that signed treaties with a foreign country that said, hey, you know what? We're going to work together because it's better we don't fight. Okay, now's the time for both nations to step up, the United States and the different tribal nations to work together to really achieve what our forefathers, our mothers and our grandmothers fought for and really said, you know what, if we stop fighting, let's all be successful. So again, those principles as you're making your rounds in Washington, D.C. The third thing that I think about is when it comes to our small businesses on Navajo, one of the things I continue to encourage is really taking advantage of some of the resources that the nation has and continues to have. I'm glad that organizations like Change Labs are here today to really help empower some of our small businesses, our Diné Chamber of Commerce, and other partners that are on Navajo. And the fourth thing, before I forget, is really trying to make sure that when it comes to investing in yourselves, a lot of times our sister tribes, our brother tribes that put their own money up to do economic development. Over the next year, working with the Navajo Nation Council and myself, one of the things we're proposing is how can we invest in ourselves to really borrow and leverage money so that we can boost economic activity, not on top of, in addition to trying to do energy development like solar, so solar, and really trying to save different energy development projects that are foregoing on the nation. So those types of initiatives, really, how do we invest in that? So hopefully this year, the nation does a big move by investing nearly up to $1 billion of its own leveraging money to invest in hotels, in retail, in restaurants, in our infrastructure, and things like that, because when those are strong, then that way the taxes that we're collecting are even stronger. And lastly, really just want to say thank you for the leaders that are on here. Continue to strive, continue to really achieve true tribal sovereignty, which means you're a nation that doesn't need federal funds, and that's what we're trying to strive for. And that's one of the things that, like I said, in 2075, if the Navajo Nation can say, you know what, we don't need no federal money, we can actually send you some federal aid. And that's what some of the things that we should all be striving for, is that as nations, as tribal leaders, we're more than capable, because for a long time they tried to get rid of us, but we're still here because that's for a reason, that the Indian blood that runs through each and every one of us, let's use that creativity and really make our nations proud. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Yep. Just one more.
Final word here.
Yes, one more thing that I've forgotten. There's probably some health people in here. Please look at health when it comes to diversifying. So at Colville, we recently built a treatment center. We get an encounter rate through our state, which is very high. We also have a convalescent center for our elders. We're building a new one next year. Hopefully it gets started to be built. We also get an encounter rate for that. And we're also building a new clinic in Omak. But there's a lot of money in health, and you can also help people. So please look at health when you diversify. I heard IHS mentioned Academy, the wheels turning. So I want to make sure that if you aren't diversified into health, please do so, because there's a lot of money to be made too to help your tribal members and expand those services as well. So.
And Derek also too, the tech field. This is going to be huge as well. I mean, we have so many different areas that we could talk about here, but the tech field, AI, we have to be ahead of this, right? We can't be left behind. Yeah. We fought to be there during the green revolution as well, but the tech revolution, we have to be there. And I see so many, awesome native groups here and entities, that have this expertise that we need to harness. For Gila River, we have our Gila River telecommunications as well, and the whole broadband, and making sure that that digital divide, which is an old term, but sadly it's still relevant among many of our tribes here across Indian country. That is so important. That's a synergistic opportunity where we can bring together technology, broadband, and harness. In the appropriate way, so that we're not, so that we're not victims to it, but we're actually controlling it in a responsible way. This new AI technology as well, moving forward. And one more thing, when we talk about, just creating our economic base, we're so proud. We're going to be the first tribe to host the LPGA championship, the 4 championships on the Gila River Indian community at our golf course, Whirlwind Golf Course. And that's going to show that Indian country has the capacity to bring tourism, to bring a major event to Indian country. A rising tide raises all boats. So I just wanted to share that as well to all my relatives here. Thank you.
Oh.
All right. Well, I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm energized. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to 2025 or 2075, excuse me. So let's give a big round of applause for our tribal leaders. Thank you very, very much. All right, onward. We mean business. So thank you very much and have a great morning. So thank you.
Derek.